All right. So while everybody is tuning in, I will just slowly start with the intro of today's audio event. And for those for whom this is the very first audio event, welcome. I hope you will enjoy this. So yes, for today, we'll have yet again Linkedist audio event. This is the first one we're having this year. Last year we had quite a few and it was a success. So I'm excited to continue doing these events. I hope you're doing well and I hope you're ready to learn more about LinkedIn sales. So during this event, we will have a panel of sales experts whom you can already see here in the host positions. And today's discussion is, as I mentioned, aimed at startups and other emerging companies. It can also be not necessarily tips for only startups. I think like a lot of the tips that you'll hear today, you will be able to apply also for your organization. So stick around. And again, it doesn't matter where you're starting, if it's just the beginning of your sales journey on LinkedIn, or if you're already seeking to have like better results. Everyone will find quite some useful information. So great to see that we already have more than 60 people. Hello, everybody. So from my side, I would like to let you know that if you're listening, always react with some emojis. If you're agreeing with what the presenters are saying, sorry if you're not, there's no emoji for that, but hopefully in the future we'll have some of those as well. For those who are joining again for the first time, we will shortly start our discussion. And if you have a question, you can raise your hand before the end of the session of this audio event. We will actually have from 10 to 15 minutes for the Q&A. So if you have a question, raise your hand and then we'll bring you on the stage. Just have your question prepared. No pitching whatsoever, sorry, unless you do a really great pitch and we can all evaluate it. But yeah, without further ado, I feel like most of the people have joined already. Without further ado, let me introduce myself. So my name is Kotryna and I'm the founder and CEO of Linkedist, the company that helps people and brands grow with the power of LinkedIn. And today with me in this audio event, I have a few people. So first of all, we have Dom Urniežius, the co-founder and CEO of Growtech. Hi, Dom.
Hi, Kotryna. Happy to be here.
Good to see you here, or good to hear you here, right? We don't see each other. Okay, we have Edvin Vosylius, founder and CEO of Hermes. Hello.
Hi, Kotryna and everyone. Thank you for having me.
Good to have you. And of course, we have Alper, Yurder, co-founder and CRO of Flowla. Hello.
Hello, thanks for having me, Kotryna. And hi, folks.
Good to have you. So maybe each of you could just briefly tell us, and I know, we're all salespeople here, so just in a few sentences of what your company does, and maybe if it's related with sales or selling, you can expand a little bit on that as well. So Dom, maybe we can start with you.
Sure, absolutely. Happy to tell a bit more about us. So in the simple words, we either execute go-to-market strategy or we craft one. How we do it, we use outbound B2B lead generation to do that. We're working in this field more than 7 years with top startups in Europe. We have more than 40 people all across the world, more than 70 clients, starting from pre-seed startups all the way to really established unicorns. And so I'm very, very excited to share my experience here because LinkedIn is amazing tool for us. We're using it daily for our clients and for ourselves. So I'm very looking forward to great discussion.
Oh, sorry. I think I was muted. Thanks, Dom. Now we could move to Edvin. Edvin, maybe you could share a little bit about Hermes.
Yeah, for sure. So basically what Hermes does, that we as service provider and we focus on sales positions and we do sales headhunting and recruitment for startups or SMBs or innovative companies. and how we ended up with such an interesting idea, right? But basically, I was head of sales for the last 8 years, and I worked in sales for the last 16 years, and was selling software products, doing international sales, and use LinkedIn a lot, and just identified this opportunity that every great startup needs an amazing salespeople, and what can be better than just salespeople finding salespeople. So this is what we're trying to achieve the Hemes. And I see some of my ex-colleagues from previous startups. So hi guys, who knows me.
Great, good to have you, and thank you so much for sharing this. Now, Alper, the mic goes to you.
Of course, first of all, I'm very disappointed about the fact that there is no disappointment emoji, as you mentioned, Kotryna. There should definitely be one. Let LinkedIn hear our voice. So I'm Alper. I'm the co-founder of Flowla, which is a digital sales room. If you're thinking that being a seller and closing a deal is difficult, then be in the shoes of the buyer. I'm sure many of you are, and buying a product is not an easy job. So basically, we try to improve the buyer experience and make sure that all of that seller and buyer relationship works in one single link. And that's basically what the digital sales room or mutual action plan execution is. And I'm very happy to be here because I use LinkedIn on a day-to-day basis. That's one of our main growth engines. And prior to being a very new founder at the age of 38, which is an interesting experience, I've been in sales for over a decade and an ex-consultant.
All right. Thank you so much for sharing. And I think that those who are interested in hearing more about the companies that we just heard about, definitely go ahead, follow, check their LinkedIn pages and see what they're doing there. Okay, so thank you so much for sharing. And again, today I just want to have a really nice discussion. We can, of course, I have some questions prepared, but we can always, have some additional questions. Let's see how the conversation goes. And I would like to start actually with putting ourselves into the shoes of a very early stage startup, or it could be even a startup that has been on the market for at least 1 or 2 years, still struggling with clients, still struggling with, finding them, or most importantly, reaching them, right? Even if you find them, you don't necessarily can reach them. So if you were in their shoes and you would have LinkedIn as one of the places where you're trying to reach your target audience, what would you personally start with? You go on LinkedIn, what's next? Do you identify some tools, some additional tools first? Do you try to write them? What are your messages? Just, from the batch, a few ideas where you would start, because I can see a lot of people that are listening already, they are from startups, and I think they always have this question. So anyone would like to start?
I don't mind going first on this one.
Yeah, go ahead.
Which means I don't have to go first on the other one. So I think the biggest struggle for me, and I hear this in my community a lot, is clarity. LinkedIn is an amazing tool. It's great. It's supposedly free, by the way. It's not, because your attention is the currency, and attention of the followers and people who listen to you is the currency. And sometimes we're spending it not in the most economical way. Anyway, I would say trying to create clarity as soon as possible. Who's your audience? Who are you talking to? Who are you writing to? Who are you trying to reach out to? What do they care about? I think that's probably the biggest struggle, and try to narrow it down as much as possible, I would say. And that's been my 1 year of journey. Like, who's my audience? Who cares? What should I be talking about, etc. So clarity would be a big gift once we find it, I think.
And just to piggyback on that, what are the ways you could try to find the clarity? Would you create content and then see who engages? Would you send some A/B testing, some messages, and see which one works better? How would you get that clarity?
Yeah, I think the very simple answer is, first you need to cast a wide net so you see who catches. And then as you get signals, you try to double down and you try to measure the impact. So if you're posting for a month consistently, different post types, different topics, see what gets the engagement, what actually works, and therefore double down on that. And a tool that I started, for example, personally, at first when I decided, okay, LinkedIn is going to be a big growth channel for us about a year and a half ago, I started following a lot of people, like, salespeople, customer success, revenue leaders, etc. Maybe 1,000 people. And in that process, I used Walaxy, which is like a good prospecting tool for LinkedIn. And that helped me to follow people en masse. Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much. And those who are listening, definitely take a notebook or open your notes app on your phones, because there will be some tools named today that I think will be helpful for everybody. So what about you, Dom? What would you add here if you would start out from the scratch?
Yeah, so I guess from the practical standpoint, I think the biggest problem is consistency. So you need to be consistent on LinkedIn. That's the number one rule to be successful, because I heard many different stories when startups complaining, LinkedIn doesn't work for me, blah blah blah. In some particular cases, it might be the problem that your audience or your vertical just are not on LinkedIn. For example, real estate or more like old school industries. But for other folks, I would say the consistency is the number one thing that you need to nail down. Start simple, free posts per week from your personal profile and from the company profile. Then second thing that you can do is to clean your feed, follow all competitors that you have. You're going to see what is happening in the industry, what kind of stuff they are doing, and you can get an inspiration from them as well. And what kind of tool to use is, I think, you can brainstorm perfectly with the Google Bard on even ChatGPT for some kind of ideas. If you want to even streamline even more the process, you can use taplio.com for generating the content or getting ideas as well. And they really encourage startups to not solely rely on text content, but to really start mixing up a visual content, including videos, pictures, something like that, because research shows that visual content yields about 20% more engagements and impressions.
All right, that makes a lot of sense. And so you touched mostly upon the content creation side. Would there be something you would do in regards to like the outreach side, sales side?
Yeah, actually, to Alper's point, you can invite a bunch of people to your connections, right? And after they accept it, you can, just start the conversations, right? And especially with your potential clients or your peers in the same industry. You're not going to necessarily, sell instantly, right? But at least they will know who you are. They saw your brand. You will be visible, I think. So that kind of thing is more like a long-term projection. So do not expect the instant sell. Do not try to pitch slap, as I see a lot of on LinkedIn nowadays. But instead, try to build long-term relationships. Try to be visible, and I think in the long term we're going to win.
All right, makes sense, and thank you so much for sharing this advice. Edvin, do you have something to add?
Yeah, I think I will try to combine Dom's and Alper suggestions, because if we talk about very early stage startups, I would say that you definitely need to move your focus from how I can sell to how I can connect first, right? And I usually tend to compare LinkedIn connection as a real life connections with the people. Then you approach someone at the conference, you usually say hi, you try to introduce each other a little bit, but you never pitch, right? So exactly the same on LinkedIn, that you first should list at least, I don't know, 50 to 100 people that might be your potential customers, try to connect with them. And then you can, of course, experiment on the message, what you send. But basically, your idea should be to really get to know each other. And you can even do it that simple way that say that, hi, Kotryna, I'm just launching my new business. I see that you are from the industry, and I would really appreciate your feedback because I'm trying, this and this hypothesis. What do you think about that? And that really hooks people because you ask for advice, and it really kind of shows that you care about them, at least how much, at least you are not trying to pitch slap, as Dom said. That's an amazing expression. And after that, a week or month or so, you can try, to come back to that conversation. And at the beginning, I don't even suggest using tools for you, so you can experiment and feel it, the vibe of a LinkedIn. And on top, after you did the first impressions and first connections, then you can start thinking, all right, should I post anything? Should I be consistent? Or it's enough for me at that stage, and I can, go back and go back to my project and try to implement the suggestions and so on. So that probably would be my advice for super early stage startups.
Okay, so like testing and trial, and then later on just bringing all the big guns and all the tools into your
exactly
hands.
Because a lot of startups, they immediately kind of like automate everything, then send thousands of messages, get either blocked, best case that someone just blocks you as a person, but either you are risking to be blocked by LinkedIn itself, right? And then you do not have a second iteration to automate what really works.
Okay, thank you so much. Actually, you mentioned a few great things, and one of them was your example, with a conference. Maybe all of you, and this is a question to all of you, you have some other real life examples, some specific examples where you did something, then connected it with LinkedIn, and then maybe had a call, and some kind of a sequence of events that worked or works till this day for you when it comes to selling. So maybe Alper or Dom, if you have something to share here besides conferences and events.
Yeah, I don't mind sharing. I think a big part of closing a deal or selling or whatever you want to call it, convincing and influencing people, is having a system in place that always helps. So when I say clarity, it's all about trying to figure out what that system is for you. But then there are general rules of thumb that you can leverage. And I think that's based in human psychology. So as a seller, your job is to be genuinely interested in somebody else's problem, is to be genuinely curious about that, genuinely curious about how others are fixing that problem, which means, what is content at the end of the day? Content is ideas, best practices, things that work for others. And in this day and age where our attention spans are as small as 8 seconds on an interaction, what you need to do is bring it very fast. So for example, I just started a podcast, and at the end of the day, into my podcast, I'm inviting, CEOs and etc., influential people who don't have time for me. So I'm trying to sell my podcast to them at the moment. So what I do is I follow them for 2-3 weeks. I warm them up. I engage with their content. I don't just say, hi, interesting, great, blah, blah, but I'm actually invested in what they're doing and provide some good conversations and always get replies, turn it into some really meaningful engagement. And after I do that, if I feel the time is right, then I pitch slap, because at the end of the day, it always feels like a slap. I think it's the force. Is it a gentle slap or is it a big slap? So after that, I go with a little message. And my message, I think it's always, again, consistent, which is a little stat, something that can create a bit of credibility and FOMO around, why you should join this or why you should buy my product. This could be a common problem that people face. And a very simple one-line explanation of how you're solving that problem. In my case, for the podcast, for example, like one line of how XYZ many people see it, and therefore it will be good for you. And a simple call to action. I think simple call to action is magic. As a seller, what you want to get is not always yeses, but you want to get a response. And to get a response, you need to reduce the cognitive load on the person, which means you shouldn't burden them with too much unnecessary information. Just say, let's chat, let's talk, interested, can I share this, that? And it's not always, book a meeting or whatever. In my case, are you interested in my podcast? And they can say yes or no, or not the right time.
These are some really good notes, and I hope some good advice, and I hope that people are taking notes of this. And again, this is an incredibly excellent way to grab somebody's attention when you're inviting them, first of all, to be on your podcast, and you're kind of giving them value as well, because you're exposing their brand and their company to a broader audience. So I do know that somebody else today in this call is also doing a podcast. So, Dom, the stage is yours.
Thank you. Yeah. To Alper's point, yeah, definitely don't ask for time when you have your CTA. Don't ask for 15 minutes or 20 minutes. It's like asking people for money, right? It doesn't work. So instead of what we like to call it, not call to action, but call to conversation, right? So that you're asking for just to have a conversation, and that's enough, right? So, and jumping a bit to the tactical things, right? So we are all about lead gen. So there's a free steps that you can do actually to get quite quick traction. So first of all, you can engage with your with the people who are engaging with your competitors' content, right? So these are low hanging fruits, right? And you can get them quite easily. Second is engage with people who are engaging with your content, right? So after a month, you said you did like 10, 15 posts, right? After a month, you'll do an analysis, right? So these are the people that I'm not connected with, seems like an ICP, right? So it's a great opportunity for you to connect with them, to ask some kind of relevant questions, what they think about the particular piece of content, and you can get the conversations pretty quickly. Third one is, and often overlooked one, is to comment on other people content, or to reply even to some comments as well. Right, and in comments you can get some magic. I saw many cases when after a really, really good comment, folks, received dozens of invitations, right? Some kind of visibility. So you are, it's probably more makes sense to do that on more like a popular, let's say, influencers, right? That have like really, really wide audience, and you can get visible in that way as well.
All right. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I wanted to add on Dom's idea to comment on of influencers' post. My record was 20 likes just for one comment on one of quite big influencers on LinkedIn. So just by simply that, I kind of increased my reach and I generated few followers. But continuing on, for example, podcast topic, and for example, we used one very interesting tactics at Fabro, because our CEO had a podcast as well, and we were operating in a games industry. And just imagine we were working with such companies like EA Sports, right? With Unity, with Amazon Games, Netflix Games. So basically, AAA studios that amazing budgets, like 20,000 employees and so on. And we managed to book a calls with C-level executives. And how we did it, we basically connected with them and we just sent, for example, hey, Steve, we have a podcast related to game industry. We talk about that challenges. And since you are executive at, for example, Amazon Games, what kind of challenges do you face in this position? And you would be surprised how many of executives replied to us, and they said, "Oh, I actually have that challenge." And this is like how we started to talk with them. And of course, we were always shaping that, turning that challenges into the solution that we sell. And it was very selfish, but it really is engaged the conversation, and we never kind of sent directly our pitch, but we asked them to start talking about these challenges. So I hope it will help as well.
Yes, thank you so much. All of this advice are useful, and I still see 100 people listening in, so I hope you are getting your questions ready as well, because in around 20 minutes we'll do the Q&A session too. But just to add to the tactics and some things that you can do. So of course, from my side, I would say one of the things that are not as widely used or sometimes people forget about is, of course, mutual connections. In my case, a lot of the times I would go to LinkedIn, I would find like a person that I want to reach out to, or let's say they could be a potential prospect. And what we could do is we would then see who are the people connected to that person. And if I would see some people that I have a close relationship with, or that I could ask for an intro, I would definitely do it. And once in a while, like this would really work wonders and would be an amazingly warm intro. So mutual connections, I feel like it's often overlooked, but it can really help you just to be like, hey, I see, that person, could you do an intro because I could help them with this and that, right? So this is one thing. And then another thing for lead gen, when you don't have a big budget, is if you, like Dom said, if you are consistent with your content and you are starting to have like a follower base, people who are following you, an audience, a community, once in a while, not always, because people will definitely sense it. Once in a while, you can do LinkedIn polls. And when you're doing a poll, try to, ask about whether people have these or these challenges, or if this is something that people are expecting within the next year, and try to think of questions that would help you identify your leads. And oftentimes when we do these kind of polls, then I could see, for example, if I'm asking what are still the biggest challenges when it comes to your organization's LinkedIn's presence, and if people vote like, creating the content itself, then I can definitely write them privately. And here I have a list of people who voted who are potential clients of mine, right? So there are these few things that you can use and definitely gain traction. And since we've mentioned content, I would like to say that definitely follow Linkedin. We are sharing good tips on LinkedIn every week. And then we recently launched an AI-powered marketing ebook. So my colleague Emilis will leave the link in the chat of this event. So feel free to grab it, because it's all about visuals and content creation. All right. So now I would like to move into another topic, which I think is like a big one for a lot of people listening, and that is tools. Tools are, of course, a big part of any, practice, even if... especially when we're doing a multi-channel approach, or when we're just working with LinkedIn, still there are lots of tools. And maybe each of you could share just briefly some of your experiences with some tools, whether that's for prospecting, for data collection, for sending LinkedIn invites, or whatever really worked. And you could also maybe share what did not work for you, because I feel like there's so many things to choose from that sometimes people get overwhelmed and don't even know which tool to go with. So maybe you have tried quite a few. And I already see Dom is unmuted, so go ahead.
Yeah, I have prepared a list of tools. So
let's go.
Taplio is good for content, good to brainstorm ideas, to see what other people are doing, right, and to kind of optimize their content. And they even giving you some analytics to see. So it's a good tool. Then another one is for automation, right? So in my career, I used free tools: Expandy, Galaxy, and Rupify. Now, with automation tools, you need to be careful how you use them, because I got suspended actually multiple times. And when you got suspended for 3 days, it's quite painful for you, right? If you have ongoing conversations, maybe some contract negotiations. And can you imagine you're completely disappear for 3 days, right? So it will cost a lot actually. So do not over push your limits. Start small, 10, 15, up to 20 messages per day, and you should be fine. Third is tool for analytics. Shield is really good one. And for streamlining your lead gen, especially, it's really good tool for SDRs. It's called surfe.com. So basically, this is like a plugin, right, that you install to your browser. And they have an interface on the top of LinkedIn. And you can push directly from LinkedIn leads to CRM system. You can leave notes. You can add them to the sequences. Is really good. I'm currently using it. So these probably would be my go-to.
What about if we are talking about automatic connection invites? I know you mentioned you were suspended a few times. Was it because of those? Was it because of something else?
It was actually quite weird situation because I had a tool, I had a plugin, right? But none of the sequences been active, right? I turned off them, and I still got suspended, right?
Okay.
So that was the case. For other times, yeah, it was for a reason. Probably no, I sent too much messages. But what my actually partner is doing, he's using Phantom Buster for automating connection requests. So he does like 10 per day, and he's fine. So maybe that's something to consider as well.
Okay. Shield is definitely a great recommendation, and if you want to track your analytics, that's a go-to tool. Now, Edvin, what are your recommendations when it comes to tools?
I have to admit that I already used some of the recommendations by Dom, right? And I was never heavy on automation tools, especially for LinkedIn. Lemlist was number one choice, and I'm not sure why, but it probably just stuck with me. And we never went big automating LinkedIn. We kind of like did in waves. So basically connect with people, then try to nurture them, and then to do a second wave. So I was only once warned by LinkedIn that your activity looked suspicious, and that's it. I was never blocked. So yeah, Lemlist is number one choice for me, but I would consider it as a baby tool in automation world.
All right, Alper, what are some of your recommendations?
Probably I'll have two. One is something so we just published an sales almanac for 2023 where we featured 100 top revenue voices. And rather than just saying, oh, this person's great, go follow, what we did is we went through all their posts, all their content. We spent a month trying to create some, latest and the greatest best tips and practical strategies and templates, etc., from all those influencers, and we used Clio to do that. Actually, our head of content used that one, so I think that one is a good one. The other one I would say is my personal experience of LinkedIn. Basically, when I was, before starting to build Flowla, the one thing that you hate as a seller is you are just relentlessly sending what you think is very relevant and interesting information. You're sending a PDF, and then you're sending a video, and then you learn to ask people before you send something. And you do that, but you're left in the dark. It's just crickets. You're not getting any information back. And part of that reason is you're bombarding people with a lot of content that they're not interested, but you have no idea of knowing it. So here I'm going to pitch my own tool, which is Flowla. You just put everything in one flow. You send it, you see exactly what people are interested in. If they're watching your demo for 1 minute, that is your ICP. That is your person you should keep chasing, not the other people. If somebody's looking at your YouTube video for 30 seconds, that is the person to chase. So I think that information is gold. It helps us a lot in our own go-to-market motion too.
Thank you, Alper. And the first one that you mentioned, where can we find it?
Which one, sorry?
You mentioned at the beginning.
Cleo,
Yeah.
maybe our head of content who's listening can come out of mute and answer you better. But I think it's KLEO is the name of the tool, and it just shows the top post for each creator, so you know what's the real good content that you should be looking for in that creator.
Okay, I got it. Actually, when you were mentioning the tools and sharing, I also get to think of another question around the same topic, and that is, this week we actually, Dom and I, we had a podcast episode on his podcast, and it's coming, I think, this week. But we also talked a little bit about sales and AI, of course, what's happening. And a couple of times I mentioned during the last few months that, we're not really sure how the future looks like. And maybe in the future, two bots are going to sell to each other. And then only when the time comes for the need of closer interaction, then the people can talk. So all the negotiations, all the other interactions will be done automatically. What do you see or predict maybe when it comes to the usage of artificial intelligence and the sales process? Any predictions, anything that you already see in the market that's happening?
Yeah, I'm happy to take this one. Actually, I would really love from the 100 people listening, what would their reaction be? I just had Carl Poyer on the pod, and we were talking about this. And the moment he mentioned AI, it was just such a cringy moment. And I asked this question to everybody. I think there's two things. One, so far there is no tool that does what the salesperson does, which is to build that empathy, trust, relationship building, which is at the core of selling. And it's really hard to do. I think what I hear from a lot of people that I learned from is they're using AI to make things more efficient and effective. Like, instead of spending 20 minutes to write something, yes, you can use ChatGPT to write, generative AI, whatever. But at the end of the day, the experience needs to come from you. The genuinity, the authenticity, it has to come from you. So I don't think that's being replaced. Where AI is a bit more effective, I feel like, is, things like optimizing, saving time, instead of creating an image over 5 hours on Canva, you have now AI tools which can create that for you by learning it. So at the core of it, the sales job, I think, is very human. It's so human that I'm very interested to see how it can be automated. But what we need is, I think, tools to help people to get better at their job. So best practice, if you do X, you will be able to close a deal faster. If you insert a specific content, your prospect will be more willing to engage with you. That kind of best practices, maybe learning from a large set of data. So a tool that can give you the best practice. And that's kind of what we're trying to build at Flowla. Something like a sales companion. Had love to have a sales companion other than a manager to whom I only have, once a week access to give me the best practice. But if you have a tool that is using AI to give you ideas about how to do your job better, giving you constantly best practice from others, etc., that's super powerful, and that's what we're trying to build with our AI.
So an AI assistant to help you do your job better. Okay, any other opinions? Dom, Edvin?
I can join, and I noticed that we can automate a lot of manual work based on LRSs, or like lead research specialist job description. So basically, identifying ICPs, identifying decision makers, identifying emails or contacts, and then leading to SDRs to outbound. And that could be as well automated, but I would say that it could be replaced right with AE, with first steps, because as soon as someone would reply to you properly that I am interested if that and that, or if I'm not interested if that, then it's very difficult to automate that reply. You need to really interact from the human perspective.
Yeah.
So I would say that the first layer of the sales, LRS, bit of SDRs, yes, we should automate them and let people do sales, proper sales to each other.
Yeah, a bit to build up. I see quite a few directions. Everyone who managed a sales team, especially SDRs, they know how painful and how time consuming is to coach them and to listen all cold calls that they made. And this area is getting disrupted, I think, big time, because you have tools like Gong, you have tools like I forgot Clary. Yeah, that's the one. Clary, and they analyze sales calls, and they just tell what sales guy did correctly, what they did wrong. There's even some kind of AI assistant that tells you where to shift the conversation. It's really, really in depth, and I think it's going to be even more prominent in the next few years. Another one is actually programmatic sequencing is the thing right now, and there's quite a few solutions who can provide you that. So instead of writing the whole sequence by yourself, basically AI does everything for you. The quality is actually 50-50. It's not something that we use, but I think few years and I think you're going to have the whole sequence personalized, crispy, in few minutes. I think it's going to happen. Another one that actually blew my mind a bit is AI cold calling, right? It's not there yet, but go to air.com and listen to the demo, right? It will surprise you how good it is. And I think, again, a few years and we're going to have it. And the personalization, right? I think that can basically analyze a bunch of profiles, get the information from the websites, and you can have quite good personalization. And for that, you can check out clay.com actually for that. It's like waterfall enrichment, but you can use that for personalization.
And for air.com, is it spelled like the actual air or?
Yeah, the air that you breathe. Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. This is really interesting because I've also heard some demos or seen some demos and heard some calls where it was not really a human speaking, but an AI model with a human's voice. And it's interesting to see where things are getting. Even for the sales promotional campaign, I've tried a tool called Hey Jen. And basically, I just filmed myself from a few different angles. And what it does, you upload your videos, and then it basically, whatever text you write, it kind of shows that you're saying that text. Not all videos came out smoothly, but there were a few that looked like it was definitely me saying those words. And it's interesting where things are going, because especially for promotional campaigns, for sales promotional campaigns, these things will be useful. Let's see what the future holds. Thanks to everybody who shared their opinions on this, on the trends and on the topic of AI. I know, as Alper mentioned, it's a topic that everyone is covering these days, but hey, we can't ignore it either. I think now, for those who are listening, it's a great time to start raising your hands. Don't be shy, and just ask your question, and we'll bring you on the stage. So if you have some questions, you can raise your hand, and I'll be able to see you before bringing you on the stage for the Q&A part. But until then, if I don't see any raised hands at the moment, I want to talk about one final thing before we wrap it up. And that will be definitely just trying to think of challenges. So I know today we talked about LinkedIn tools, we talked about LinkedIn strategies, and this whole audio event is meant for, sharing what works, which I think we did at least a little bit of what works for us. And for every salesperson who is starting out or who's already in their sales journey, it's a lot about resilience, right? And it's a lot about overcoming those challenges. And I feel like within every single campaign that you do, whether that's cold calling, cold outreach, any other campaign, there's of course a lot of rejection. So just for the final bit, which I would love to be a little bit more motivational for the listeners, maybe you could each share, it could be also a memorable rejection that you had, which turned into a lesson, or, how you actually overcome them and how you motivate yourself on continuing with your sales activities.
Again, I don't mind going first on here. With rejection, I mean, it's part of the job. It's all day, every day. First of all, if we're wrapping up, before we come to the end of it, there's I was checking out the names of the participants, and it's like such a wide range of people from different locations. I would love to hear from everybody's, best practices, etc. Because, you never give without getting. So if anybody's has some good tips for us to get, please feel free to get in touch, like our post, and share your tips. Mine, rejection is part of it. It's every day. But again, I was talking to somebody and who told me after a while I was crying, and I understood that I cannot cry anymore. So it's a bit like that for me, the sales game, rejection game. You have bad days for 2-3 days. You can have them, but then you figure out a new solution. For me, actually, it's not from the world of LinkedIn, but probably one of my worst career nightmares was when I pushed a client for a huge deal to the brink of, I chased them so hard, so bad, that I brought them to the brink of complaining about me to my manager. That was probably the first year of my very hard sales IC journey. And I learned a huge lesson that, yes, you want to close something and you have a quote and you want to get your commission, but you're dealing with humans. So either you enjoy the pace of people and how they respond to you, or you find another job. So I would recommend the same. We are dealing with people. Let's remember that.
Great advice. Great advice. What about the others?
Yeah, I think I can jump in. And actually the tool of cold calling AI is not air.com, but air.ai. So just a small adjustment from my side. And I have one really, really good story that taught me a lot, actually, I think. So a few years ago, we received a project. It was really early for the company. Every dollar matter, and received a project from Tel Aviv, right, from one of the potential customers, and they said, let's work for a month on this particular event. Great. We started to work. After a month, they say, we're not satisfied. We are choosing another vendor, right? But it's still like a few weeks left to finish the project. So that was a quite hard slap for us. And but we still, kept our professionalism, kept pushing. At the end of the day, we delivered quite good results. And after couple of days, the client came back to me and said, the other vendor is just so bad. Now we understand how good you are, and we want to keep working with you, right? We see your attitude, we see your energy, your determination. And fast forward a few years, we have many clients in Tel Aviv. That client became the partner of ours. We have a great relationship. I met many times face to face in their office. We just share our experiences, and that's a really good lesson for us. That doesn't matter what is the reaction from the customer, but keep your determination in check and professionalism in check. Right, and you can get awarded actually quite significantly, because people always will remember that.
What a beautiful story. And people are people at the end of the day, right? And you never know how it will turn around or how it can turn around.
Absolutely.
Edvin, for the final thoughts, we have you.
Yeah, final thoughts. I want to share one saying from my ex-colleague, and he is actually here, Gintas Švenas. So basically, he always said that there is no better feeling than talking with a potential customer. So always remember that if you receive a rejection or a lot of rejections, you can have a remedy to talk with the future customer, right? And it will generate the potential business for you, and you would feel great and so on. So, but another thing that just remember that if they said no today, maybe it was not because of your bad pitch or anything. Maybe they were not even read your message and they said no. So come back next time, come back with another approach. And be resistant. We work in sales, and we try. Our job is, to be resistant and to hear no every day, and especially when we work in a service business. And Kotryna and Dom can definitely agree that selling services, you have to be at the right time and right moment, and you have to hear a lot of no. And then maybe the same customer who said 10 times no would call you back and say, Edvin, now I need your services. It's good that you never were rude with me and you were never angry that I rejected you so many times. So keep that in mind.
Really great advice as well. So thank you so much, everybody, for sharing. I think from my side, and somebody also mentioned this today, it will be just getting an answer, right? Like that's what matters. And then from a no, you can still have some negotiations. You can still talk with somebody, but keeping your hopes high is okay. But it's more important to actually keep your activity numbers high and make sure that you send a lot of emails, send a lot of messages, talk with a lot of people, meet a lot of people. And I always say, like, the bigger the number, the bigger the possibility and opportunity that someone will convert and become your client and maybe your biggest fan or partner. All right. So I see we have one question from the audience. So I'll go ahead and unmute Olga, and others who are listening, make sure to also, if you have some questions, go ahead and raise your hand and we'll bring you on the stage. So, Olga, the stage is yours. We're listening to your question. You also need to unmute yourself if everything is okay and you can hear us.
Oh, yeah. Thank you for the reminder. And thank you so much for the conversation, especially the practical side of it. The question is, when you were on an early stage of your startup, if you have experience reaching out to potential investors during your seeding round investment via LinkedIn, those high-level prospects from top world capital ventures that receive hundreds of emails and messages on LinkedIn, what tips would you give to such startups?
All right, any takers?
Happy to take this one as somebody who raised over 1.3 million in the middle of the sugar storm that was last year.
Wow.
I think what you need to understand, Olga, about raising, or maybe you already know, but at least my learning is this, it's a bit like selling. So FOMO is a big part of it. Once you go into the fundraising journey, I think what you want to do is create momentum. When you reach out to 5, 10, 20, 30 people, the next VC that you speak to, the outcome should be, wow, okay, these people are raising and they're going to raise without us if we don't jump in. So, play the game that they're playing with you. Because if it goes into the game of, oh yeah, okay, this is a great pitch, let's talk in 3 months, that's not going to be great for your raising. So I'm coming from the result and back to what you should do in terms of outreach. With the outreach, I think it's a bit similar to sales. I would just start with your close network, people that you feel like are going to invest in you. I don't think you need to go after the impossibles, the ones who you already know may not be giving you money because you don't have any connections, any referrals, they're maybe too high up, etc. The world is, there's plenty of fish in the sea. So I would say, again, like, try to know your ICP, who fits to you culturally as a VC, who is investing into the space, how many of them there are. Okay, there are 30 of them. This is my sequence. I'm going to reach out to 5 this week. I'm going to make sure that I speak to 1. With that momentum, then I'm going to reach out to another 2 next week. I think that's a smarter way to do fundraising than just say, okay, these are the 40 wonderful, shiny names, and I want their money, if that makes sense.
Yes, thank you so much.
I can share an advice, as I raised 3 rounds. The biggest was 5 million, and I'm part of a venture capital fund as well, 30 million. So basically, you have to be direct. The VCs, you have to be really direct and on point. Like, we are building chatbot. We have that traction. We have so many users. We have that revenue, and so on and so on. Don't be so fluffy and nice about your dream startup and so on. No, because everyone is building the next unicorn, but especially at the early stage, you need to talk about traction. And once they see your traction, then you can be a bit broader on your big idea and so on. But that's my advice.
Thank you. And if you have the potential lead and they don't respond via email, are you hunting them via emails, or you just stick to one channel usually?
Definitely.
VCs, you have to use all possible channels. Don't stick to anything. Be creative.
If the door doesn't open a window.
Exactly. Send pictures, text, voice messages, emails, mails, whatever. Ask for intros. You are chasing for someone money, right? So you need to be really creative. If you cannot land attention of VC, how you will land your customers?
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
All right. So, Olga, I think we've hopefully answered your question, or the amazing panelists did, and I think there was a lot of great advice. I don't see any other hands raised. I think people are maybe a little bit shy, but hey, you shouldn't be. We're all salespeople here, so come on the stage if you have something you wanted to ask or maybe add, as Alper said. If you would like to share something from your sales experience, we still have a couple of minutes. But first of all, thank you so much, everybody, for joining, and for panelists, especially for coming here and sharing your knowledge. And again, if you want to learn more about sales, we also at Linkedist have a LinkedIn sales course. So if you want to check it out, go to the event's description. There is a secret code for you. Otherwise, I think we touched upon a lot of great topics. We'll be, of course, sharing the recording. So if you would want to share this recording with your colleagues in a few days or next week, we'll have it on YouTube. So make sure to check it there as well. But again, thank you so much, everybody, for joining. Thank you, Dom, Edvin, Alper, for taking the time to join me today. I'm sure you might see some new connection requests on your LinkedIn after this event, so be prepared. And I hope that everybody understood a little bit more about LinkedIn, about how you can sell via LinkedIn. I think we could talk about this for hours, right? Like each of the simple single topics that I mentioned has like a lot of within that topic itself. So I think maybe we'll do at some point a follow-up event. Thank you once again for joining. We look forward to having you in other upcoming audio events. And of course, follow the speakers here today, follow their company, see what they're up to. And thank you. Until next time, then I say.
Thank you, guys. Take care.
Thank you.
Great
Thank
session.
you.
Thanks, Kotryna, and thanks to the listeners. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.